Something has changed, and you can feel it even if you cannot explain it. The things that once disturbed your peace no longer reach you the same way. The opinions that once controlled your decisions have lost their authority. The fears that once demanded your attention are becoming strangely quiet. Most people believe strength comes from fighting harder. But what if true strength appears when the battle no longer has access to you? Quantum reality suggests that profound transformations occur when a system shifts into a completely different state. Tonight we explore a hidden shift that may already be happening within you, a shift that changes how reality interacts with your consciousness. The moment it happens, you do not become stronger than the world, you become untouchable by what once controlled you. The day reality lost its grip on you. For much of life, people assume they are free because they can make decisions. They choose where to go, what to do, and what to pursue. Yet beneath these visible choices, another process is often taking place. Emotions are being pulled by circumstances. Confidence rises and falls according to outcomes. Self-worth expands after praise and contracts after criticism. Without realizing it, many people spend years allowing the external world to determine the condition of their inner world. A single message can ruin an entire day. A disagreement can occupy the mind for hours. A failure can reshape how a person sees themselves. An opinion from someone else can create doubt that lasts for months. The strange part is that these reactions often become so familiar that they appear normal. People begin assuming that emotional dependence is simply part of being human. Then a subtle transformation begins. It rarely arrives through a dramatic event. More often, it develops through countless moments of observation. You begin noticing how often your peace has been handed over to circumstances. You begin noticing how much energy has been spent reacting to situations that cannot truly define you. Slowly, a new awareness starts emerging. The same criticism appears, but it no longer enters as deeply. The same disappointment occurs, but it no longer destroys your confidence. The same uncertainty appears, but it no longer controls your future. Nothing has changed. Everything has begun changing. Quantum systems behave differently when they reach a critical threshold. A small shift can reorganize the entire pattern. The same elements remain present, yet the system starts operating according to different rules. Human consciousness can experience a similar transition. There comes a moment when awareness stops treating every event as a command. A setback becomes information rather than identity. A rejection becomes an experience rather than a definition. A challenge becomes a circumstance rather than a personal failure. Reality continues presenting situations, but those situations lose the authority they once held. This is why becoming untouchable is often misunderstood. People imagine it means becoming cold, disconnected, or indifferent. It does not. You still feel, you still care, you still participate in life. The difference is that your center is no longer being controlled by every passing condition. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm while anchored to something deeper than the wind. The storm still exists, the rain still falls, the noise still surrounds you, yet you are no longer being carried away by it. That is the hidden shift. The emotional hooks stop finding a place to attach. The old triggers stop producing automatic reactions. The external world loses its ability to dictate your internal state, and this becomes the first true sign that reality is losing its grip on you. Not because life has become easier, not because challenges have disappeared, but because your consciousness is no longer organized around them. The world continues moving, people continue speaking, circumstances continue changing, yet something within you has become steady. Who you are is no longer determined by what happens around you. And that is the day the journey toward becoming untouchable truly begins. The hidden separation from the old version of yourself. Many people believe transformation happens when their circumstances change. They imagine that a new job, a new relationship, more money, more success, or a better environment will finally create a different life. Yet some of the most profound changes occur long before anything visible happens. The external world may look exactly the same while an entirely different process unfolds beneath the surface. A separation begins. Not a separation from other people, a separation from an older version of yourself. That older version may have been guided by fear. It constantly searched for approval. It compared itself to others. It worried about being judged. It measured its value through achievements, recognition, and acceptance. Much of its energy was spent trying to avoid discomfort and protect a fragile sense of identity. This felt normal. Most people never question these patterns because they become deeply familiar. They assume that constant worry is their responsibility. They assume that seeking validation is confidence. They assume that emotional dependence is a connection. Then awareness begins noticing something unexpected. You start observing these patterns instead of automatically obeying them. The need for approval still appears, but you no longer follow it immediately. The urge to compare yourself still appears, but it no longer feels convincing. The fear of rejection still speaks, but its voice becomes weaker. A gap begins forming between your awareness and the habits that once controlled you. This gap changes everything. Quantum systems can enter entirely new states when a critical threshold is crossed. The same components remain present, yet their organization transforms. Human consciousness often undergoes a similar shift. The old reactions do not disappear overnight. The old fears do not vanish instantly. The difference is that they stop feeling like you. You begin seeing them as patterns rather than identity. You begin recognizing that the voice of insecurity is not the center of your being. You begin recognizing that old emotional habits are experiences passing through awareness rather than permanent definitions of who you are. This realization creates freedom. You understand that you do not have to become every thought that appears. You do not have to obey every fear that arises. You do not have to build your life around protecting an image that no longer represents who you are becoming. The transformation remains mostly invisible. Friends may not notice it. The family may not notice it. The world may not notice it. Yet internally, an entirely different relationship with yourself is forming. Imagine removing a heavy suit that you have worn for so long that you forgot it was there. At first, nothing seems different. Then you begin noticing how much energy was spent carrying its weight. The old identity often functions the same way. It demands constant defense, constant explanation, constant validation. When separation begins, that burden starts falling away. You stop fighting battles that no longer matter. You stop proving things that no longer need proof. You stop defending versions of yourself that no longer need protection. And one day, a remarkable realization appears. The person who once reacted to everything is no longer directing your life. The fears are still visible. The memories are still visible. The old habits are still visible. But they no longer occupy the center. Awareness has moved beyond them. That is why becoming untouchable begins here. Not when the world changes. Not when people finally understand you. Not when every problem disappears. It begins when you stop identifying with the version of yourself that requires constant protection. Because the moment that separation becomes clear, the old self loses its authority, and a new level of freedom quietly begins to emerge. Why certain energies can no longer reach you. There comes a point in personal transformation when something strange begins to happen. The world around you looks largely the same, yet your relationship with it changes completely. The same drama exists, the same negativity exists, the same distractions exist, the same conflicts continue unfolding, yet they no longer pull you in with the same force. What once demanded your attention now struggles to hold it. What once triggered an immediate reaction now passes through your awareness without creating the same disturbance. This change can feel confusing. You may wonder why certain conversations no longer interest you, why certain arguments feel exhausting rather than exciting, why certain forms of entertainment, gossip, conflict, or emotional chaos suddenly feel empty. The reason is deeper than preference. Your consciousness is reorganizing itself. For years, many people unknowingly live inside patterns that constantly seek stimulation. The mind becomes accustomed to reacting. It searches for problems to solve, conflicts to engage with, and emotional highs and lows to keep itself occupied. This creates a Attention feeds the pattern demands more attention, and the cycle continues. Then awareness begins evolving beyond it. Quantum systems can transition into entirely new states when their internal organization changes. The same environment remains present, yet the system no longer behaves the way it once did. Human consciousness often experiences a similar transformation. The things that once attracted you lose their magnetic pull, not because they disappeared, because your relationship with them changed. Imagine a radio tuned to a particular frequency. It receives specific signals and broadcasts specific sounds. Change the frequency, and an entirely different station appears. The signals from the previous station are still present in the environment, but they are no longer being received in the same way. Consciousness often works similarly. As awareness deepens, it begins resonating with different qualities. Clarity becomes more attractive than confusion. Peace becomes more attractive than conflict. Understanding becomes more attractive than emotional chaos. The result is that certain energies lose access to you, not because you are resisting them, not because you are fighting them, because you are no longer aligned with them. This is a crucial distinction. Many people believe strength means battling negativity every day, yet the deepest form of strength often requires less fighting, not more. A person who constantly struggles against every distraction remains connected to the distraction. A person who constantly argues with every negative influence remains connected to the influence. True transformation occurs when the connection itself begins dissolving. The need to engage weakens, the need to react weakens, the need to prove something weakens. And with that shift, a profound freedom emerges. The emotional storms continue existing, but they no longer determine your inner weather. The chaos continues existing, but it no longer becomes your chaos. The negativity continues existing, but it no longer becomes your identity. You start realizing that not every invitation deserves a response. Not every conflict deserves participation. Not every emotional current deserves your energy. This is why untouchability is not resistance. Resistance still creates a relationship. Resistance still keeps attention focused on the thing being resisted. Untouchability is different. It is transcendence. It is the natural result of consciousness moving beyond patterns that once controlled it. The old energies remain where they are. You simply stop living there. And when that happens, something remarkable becomes visible. The peace you were searching for was not created by defeating every source of chaos. It emerged because your awareness evolved beyond the level where chaos could easily command your attention. That is why certain energies can no longer reach you, not because you built stronger walls, but because you became something they no longer know how to influence, and that is one of the clearest signs that the hidden shift is already underway. The frequency shift that changes everything. Time's up, wedawaitas I seres me to ages everything. Some of the most important changes in life do not happen because something new is added. They happen because the entire way a system organizes itself begins to change. From the outside, everything may appear the same. The same people are around you. The same responsibilities exist. The same challenges continue appearing. The same world continues moving exactly as it always has. Yet internally, a completely different process is taking place. The center from which you experience reality begins shifting. Many people live with their awareness tied to external conditions. Their emotional state rises and falls with circumstances. A compliment creates confidence. Criticism creates doubt. Success creates security. Failure creates uncertainty. The outside world becomes the source from which identity, stability, and self-worth are constantly being measured. This creates a life of constant movement. The mind is always reacting, always adjusting, always searching for something outside itself to create a sense of balance. Then a deeper shift begins. The need to build your identity from external events starts weakening. The need to seek certainty from changing circumstances starts weakening. The need to constantly monitor how the world sees you starts weakening. Something more stable begins emerging beneath the surface. Quantum systems sometimes reach a threshold where the same components suddenly organize into an entirely new pattern. The energy remains present, but the structure changes. Once the transition occurs, the system behaves according to a different set of principles. Human consciousness can experience a similar transformation. There comes a point where awareness stops revolving around every external event. Instead of constantly moving toward what is happening outside, it begins resting within something deeper. Imagine a ship crossing a stormy ocean. If the ship has no stabilizing system, every wave determines its movement. Every gust of wind changes its direction. Every disturbance affects its balance. Now imagine the same ship equipped with a powerful stabilizing center. The waves still exist. The wind still exists. The storm still exists. But the ship responds differently because its stability no longer depends entirely on external conditions. This is what the frequency shift feels like within consciousness. The world continues presenting challenges. People continue offering opinions. Unexpected situations continue appearing. Yet your awareness begins operating from a deeper foundation. You stop looking outside yourself for permission to remain at peace. You stop requiring perfect conditions in order to feel stable. You stop allowing every event to determine your emotional state. The hidden shift is subtle, but its effects are enormous. The things that once consumed your attention lose their influence. The fears that once controlled your decisions lose their authority. The opinions that once shaped your identity lose their importance, not because you force them away, because your consciousness has reorganized around something deeper than them. This is why the shift feels so powerful. You do not become detached from life. You become anchored within it. What are the one? You still experience joy. You still experience sadness. You still experience challenges. The difference is that these experiences move through awareness without defining it. Your center of gravity no longer exists in constantly changing circumstances. It exists in a deeper level of presence that remains available regardless of what is happening around you. And once this shift occurs, a remarkable realization emerges. The things that once controlled you are still searching for the person you used to be. The old fears are searching for the old version of you. The old triggers are searching for the old version of you. The old insecurities are searching for the old version of you. But that version is no longer operating from the same state. The frequency has changed. The pattern has changed. The center has changed. And because of that, what once had complete access to your consciousness can no longer find the same person to influence. That is the hidden shift that changes everything, not because reality becomes different, but because you do, the point where chaos stops following you. Many people spend years trying to escape chaos without realizing that chaos is not always a place. Sometimes it is a pattern. They change environments, they change jobs, they change relationships, they move to new cities, they start new chapters. Yet somehow the same conflicts keep appearing in different forms. The same emotional struggles return. The same frustrations return. The same sense of inner turbulence follows them wherever they go. This creates a confusing experience. It begins to feel as though life itself is creating chaos. Yet a deeper possibility exists. The chaos may not be following the person. The person may still be carrying the patterns that connect them to it. Imagine a radio continuously tuned to a particular station. No matter where the radio is taken, it continues receiving the same broadcast because the frequency remains unchanged. Human consciousness can operate in a similar way. Certain internal patterns create ongoing connections to specific experiences. The need to constantly defend yourself. The need to win every disagreement. The need to win every disagreement. The need to be understood by everyone. The need to prove your worth. The need to react immediately to every challenge. These patterns act like invisible magnets. They keep drawing attention toward conflict, drama, and emotional turbulence. Then something remarkable begins happening. The patterns start dissolving. Not through force, not through suppression. Through understanding, you begin recognizing that many of the battles you fought never needed to be fought. Many of the arguments you entered never needed your participation. Many of the things you try to control were never truly within your control. As awareness grows, the urge to constantly engage starts weakening. The urge to defend every opinion weakens. The urge to seek validation weakens. The urge to react to every disturbance weakens. And when these patterns weaken, an unexpected shift occurs. The chaos starts losing its point of entry. Quantum systems often reorganize when key structures change. Once the organizing pattern disappears, the entire system begins behaving differently. Human consciousness can experience a similar transformation. The external world may still contain conflict. The external world may still contain noise. The external world may still contain uncertainty. Yet those forces can no longer connect to you in the same way because the internal structures that once amplified them are no longer active. Imagine a fire searching for fuel. As long as fuel is available, the fire continues growing. Remove the fuel, and the fire gradually loses its power. Many forms of chaos operate in a similar manner. They depend on reaction. They depend on emotional attachment. They depend on unconscious participation. When awareness stops feeding them, they begin losing influence. This is why becoming untouchable does not mean eliminating every problem from your life. It means removing the internal mechanisms that allow problems to dominate your consciousness. A criticism may still appear, but it no longer creates the same emotional storm. A conflict may still appear, but it no longer consumes your attention for days. A challenge may still appear, but it no longer threatens your sense of identity. The situation exists. The suffering that once surrounded it begins disappearing. This is the hidden secret many people spend years searching for. Peace is not something hidden somewhere in the future. Peace is not a reward waiting at the end of a perfect life. Peace is what naturally remains when the patterns generating unnecessary inner conflict begin dissolving. It was never absent. It was simply covered by constant reaction, covered by constant resistance, covered by constant emotional noise. And as those patterns collapse, something beautiful becomes visible. The world may still be chaotic, but the chaos no longer belongs to you. It moves around you without moving through you. It appears without controlling you. It exists without defining you. And that is the moment when chaos finally stops following you, not because you escaped it, but because the version of you that was connected to it no longer exists. The consciousness that cannot be manipulated. At the deepest level of this transformation, a realization appears that changes everything. It is not a new belief. It is not a new philosophy. It is not a new identity. It is the recognition that who you are has never been created by the things you once depended upon. For much of life, people unknowingly build their sense of self from external sources. They feel valuable when they receive approval. They feel confident when they succeed. They feel secure when others accept them. They feel important when they are recognized. The problem with this approach is that anything given by external conditions can also be taken away by external conditions. If praise creates your value, criticism can threaten it. If success creates your identity, failure can shake it. If acceptance creates your confidence, rejection can weaken it. This creates a life of constant vulnerability. Your emotional state becomes dependent on factors you cannot fully control. Your sense of self becomes tied to circumstances that are always changing. Many people spend years trapped inside this invisible system. Without realizing it, they allow the outside world to tell them who they are. A compliment lifts them. A negative comment wounds them. An achievement expands their confidence. A setback contracts it. Their identity moves up and down with every change in circumstance. Then a profound shift begins. Awareness starts recognizing something that was always true. Your value existed before anyone praised you. Your worth existed before anyone approved of you. Your existence carried significance before any achievement was accomplished. This realization does not come from arrogance. It comes from clarity. Quantum systems often become stable when they stop depending on unstable variables. Human consciousness can experience a similar form of stability The moment your identity stops depending on constantly changing conditions, something remarkable happens. Fear begins losing its leverage. Fear often works by threatening something you believe can be taken away: your reputation, your success, your approval, your image. Yet when awareness is no longer built upon those things, fear finds fewer places to attach itself. The same is true of manipulation. Manipulation succeeds when it discovers a weakness it can exploit: a need for validation, a fear of rejection, a desire for approval, a need to belong at any cost. When these dependencies weaken, manipulation loses much of its power. People can still offer opinions, they can still make judgments, they can still attempt to influence you. The difference is that your identity is no longer waiting for their permission to exist. Comparison also begins losing meaning. Many people measure themselves against others. They compare achievements, appearances. What if I tally easily? Status, recognition, yet comparison only feels important when identity depends on external measurement. Once awareness becomes grounded in something deeper, comparison starts looking like an unnecessary game. You no longer need another person's success to validate your own worth. You no longer need to defeat others in order to feel complete. You no longer need to constantly prove yourself. The hidden shift was never about becoming more powerful than everyone else. It was never about controlling people. It was never about winning every battle. The deeper transformation is far more profound. You stop needing the world to confirm what you already know. You stop asking circumstances to define what cannot be defined by circumstances. You stop allowing temporary conditions to determine permanent truths about yourself. And from this place, a rare form of freedom emerges, not the freedom to control reality, the freedom to remain yourself regardless of reality. The world may still change, opinions may still change, success may come and go, challenges may appear and disappear, yet something within remains untouched, steady, clear, independent, no longer waiting for permission, no longer seeking constant validation, no longer vulnerable to every passing influence. This is the consciousness that cannot be manipulated, not because it has built stronger defenses, but because it has discovered a deeper foundation, a foundation that exists beneath praise and criticism, beneath success and failure, beneath acceptance and rejection. And once consciousness becomes anchored there, the world discovers something unexpected. It can influence your circumstances, it can influence your environment, but it can no longer determine who you are. And that is the final secret of becoming untouchable. The greatest freedom is not controlling the world around you. It is becoming so deeply rooted in your true nature that nothing outside of you has the power to control the world within you. A sign of transformation is not that your life suddenly becomes perfect. It is that the things which once controlled your emotions, your decisions, and your sense of self no longer possess the same power. The world may still be noisy, challenges may still appear, uncertainty may still exist, but something fundamental has changed within you. The hidden shift was never about escaping reality, it was about outgrowing the version of yourself that could be controlled by it. When consciousness becomes anchored in something deeper than fear, approval, and circumstance, a new state emerges, not a state of isolation, but a state of freedom. And from that moment forward, the world may continue trying to pull you in every direction, yet it discovers something unexpected. The old version of you is gone, and the new version is untouchable.